Okay, so what I was saying is our fold extend attribute is driving these trapezoid nodes in our hypergraph here. And I know that because because my memory tells me so, but also the rotate Y attribute is keyed. So if I really want to take a look at this and see which joints are being controlled by this fold extend attribute, then I could load them up in my hypergraph inputs outputs editor or hypergraph connection editor. Okay, so here's this. And right now I have animation curve attached to both the shoulder left joint, the elbow left joint, and the wrist left joint. So those I'm going to lose. Okay, I'm going to have to remake those because now this shoulder, the shoulder global, is that joint. So we'll have to get rid of that one. Okay. And then it appears also that we'll have to get rid of the elbow and the wrist joints in our original hierarchy. Now, before we do that, though, we're going to want to salvage some of our other work. So to do that, we'll just slowly remove those joints from the hierarchy and see what we can keep. So we'll grab our shoulder left annum and parent it to the collarbone. Okay, then I can delete this shoulder. Okay, now let's see what's parented to this elbow. Okay, so we have an up vector. Okay, so we need to parent this up vector to our elbow annum, because we're about to get rid of this elbow joint. So we're going to parent that to elbow annum, and then we'll parent elbow annum to shoulder, and then we'll get rid of our elbow joint. Okay. Now I like to keep my hierarchies sort of predictable, so I'm going to unparent both of these, then I'm going to parent them right back in so that they'll come in at the bottom of the hierarchy. Okay, now I've got this left wrist joint, and it doesn't really have anything, but it has the wrist annum underneath it. So that's what I need. So I'm going to reparent the wrist annum to the elbow annum. And then I can get rid of this wrist joint, which I don't need anymore. Okay, and the wrist had all kinds of fancy stuff on it. So I'm going to unparent these and then parent them back in to keep just to keep my hierarchy nice. Okay. And now I've got, it looks like I've got all my AMAT stuff and my helper joint. All of that should still be working. Okay. So the only thing that I've really broken is this fold extend that is not going to do anything now. So I'll have to redo those set driven keys. But I need to go through and relabel all this stuff. So let me maximize this, minimize that. And these are what are driving the skin. So I need to label these accordingly. Okay. So my shoulder anim, I'm going to call this to shoulder left bind. And then my elbow and my wrist are the same. So I guess I'll grab both of them. I'll just do them one at a time. Let's replace anim with bind. And then I got this wrist tip joint. That's not a bind joint. That is just housing this aim at joint, right? Actually, I guess it could be a bind joint because that's kind of the tip. That's just the tip of the wing. Yeah, we'll call it bind, just in case we want to bind to it. Okay, so wrist tip bind. And now we've got this wrist tip aim at wrist left joint. And that one is not going to be controlling the mesh directly. It controls an alternate mesh, that our tendon, our strip of geometry. Okay, and it's got an aim constraint on it. Okay, so let's check and make sure this aim constraint is still working. So I'll just select the tip aim at wrist joint, or the wrist tip aim at wrist joint, and I'll verify in the channel box that those rotate attributes are still blue. Okay, and I need to do that same thing with my wrist helper joint to make sure that it's still yellow, meaning the connection hasn't been broken, to make sure it's going to do that 50% rotation. And also I need to check, let's see, can't remember why I have a scale value on X here. Oh, I do know why. Okay, that's one of the ways I use to solve the pinching problem on my wing. I actually failed to tell you guys that, so anyway, that's one of the things I did to get that tendon to pinch the wing in the back more nicely. I keyed the scale attribute on the wrist helper tip joint. Okay, and this is for the feathers. And then this aim is still working also. That's good. Okay, and then this aim is broken. Okay, so because I deleted the joint that it was aiming to, so I need to recreate that aim. Okay, so this is shoulder aim at wrist left joint. So I need to rename this to shoulder aim at wrist left. Yeah, it needs to say, never mind, it needs to say joint. I was thinking about replacing joint with anim, or bind, I mean. But I'm not going to. Okay, so let me show all these. I press Shift H, and I need to make sure this is all working. So I come in here. All of a sudden I'm paranoid that I'm not recording. Okay. Now I'm going to remake this aim at this area. Okay, so it's driver driven, so I need to select the wrist bind, shift select the shoulder anim, no, the shoulder aim at wrist, and go to constraint.